Hey, it's After the Gig. I'm Jesse, and today on the show, I have the wonderful Gavin Castleton. Gavin Castleton just released a new album called Patternbreaker. He's one of my favorite artists. If you haven't heard of Gavin, you need to go and do the deep dive and go check out everything there is from Gavin Castleton. He has an unbelievably eclectic library of music, and you should definitely go right now and listen to it, even before this episode. I want to remind you that After the Gig has a newsletter. There will be a link below in the episode description, so click that and sign up for free to get a newsletter every Sunday at 10 a.m. And if you want to get involved in some of these podcast episodes, After the Gig has a community on Patreon. Go check that out. It's a fantastic way to connect with After the Gig and the artist and be a part of the whole thing while also supporting the podcast. So, without further ado, here is the episode with Gavin Castleton. Are you into this AI stuff for music as far as like just tools or anything, or do you think it has a potential for fuckery?
I think it's the most important question in music and creativity now, and I'm fascinated about it. I just yesterday was on a call with the product team for this tool that is AI.
It's funny, you got me freaked out. All right, we're recording, yeah. Because I make all those fucking, sorry.
I'm telling you. And I bring a curse with me, too.
And I'm
so
glad that
it usually works, it won't today.
I'm glad you recognize that.
I'm the most forgiving. If you texted me afterwards and you were like, yeah, so I'd be totally.
We got to do the whole thing again.
Yeah, trust me, that would have happened no matter what you did. There was no way around.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the cost of me being involved with anything. It's like a technological disaster.
Like, oh my God, this literally never happened before.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
Gavin.
What was that? That's funny. I was playing this show, the first show I'd played in a long time with these buddies, this band Bad Rabbits. We got to play Boston Calling a week or two ago. And I'm old enough now and now have like all the gear I want. Mm-hmm. You know, like I have the nice stuff. So I have this really sick, it's just called the Ultimate Stand. It's a snazzy keyboard stand that you see on like late night shows or whatever. You know, it's like on this angle and it holds your keyboards and it's minimal and it's got this pretty decent looking aesthetic and ergonomics and everything. And I rehearsed with it and all this stuff, and I had these very expensive keyboards mounted on it. And in the middle of the show, one of them jumped off. I stomped on the stage excitedly. The top keyboard jumped off the stage and landed on the second, and I had my hand in it, and I had to keep playing while I hold it. And ironically, the few photos there are of me playing the show is me concentrating like this and trying to keep playing. And in so doing, I messed up the patch that I'm doing. It meant like I was so devastated. I was batting 1,000. I was playing their songs the best I had been able to play them. Like I was, for the first time, really confident and prepared about the music, and somehow the curse that I've had at every show ever, including the one that the ultimate curse happened at the show at the Strand that I saw
the Montieri reunion.
Yeah, where my looping pedal blue screen right before my set, 15 minutes before I go on. Anyway, like 4 years later, I do another show. I'm the most prepared. I have the best gear, and still, with the best kind of stand that's supposed to be all about stability, the keyboard jumped off.
Disaster.
Yeah, I made it through, and it was fine, and probably nobody noticed. So you know how it is, like you overthink it. But that is to just say that that's evidence to me. I'm like, it's exactly. I just expect it. It's so weird, but
it's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. The universe really doesn't want me to in music. Like it's very obvious.
It's like, listen, guy.
Yeah, it's like been begging me for decades. Please stop doing this. Please stop playing. And I'm like, well, let's just test it out with different equipment.
It's like, I don't mind the punishment.
Yeah, I don't mind.
It's not so bad.
Yeah, until you're
messing with the wrong guy.
Yeah. I'm indestructible. You know, the stakes aren't that high either. You know what I mean? Right. Like I'm not playing for 10,000 people every night, so it's not.
How are Bad Rabbits doing? I played a few shows with them back in the day when I was up in Boston. Like either opening for them or co-bill or whatever.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I've always loved those guys. I didn't realize that you guys had that connection. So what was that show like?
Yeah, we do. I've known them forever. When I was in 2005, when I started doing solo stuff, one of the first tours I did was with them.
Okay.
But in the band before Bad Rabbits. And it was at the end of that tour that they disbanded that band and created Bad Rabbits.
Okay.
And they named it Bad Rabbits after a song of mine that that I played every night, and they would get behind me and do that song.
Oh,
with
rad.
me. It was from an old record back then.
Yeah.
One of my first solo records. So I've known them for a really long time. And I've written a couple songs on some of their records, the last couple records. And we might be working on a new record right now for them. So I just more had seen them at the Middle East come back. They put on an amazing show. And they have such an awesome, invigorated audience. And I was just like, hey, if you want keyboards, I could sit in. They've got 1 million keyboards and a backing track. And so I was like, I could thicken up this mid-range a little bit.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so this was an opportunity to do it because it was this big show. And, on that size stage, having 4 people feels like a small band all of a sudden.
Fill it out.
Yeah, so we did. It was tons of fun. It was amazing. A really fun opportunity.
Yeah, it's cool. Well, before I completely derailed the AI thing, I mentioned my buddy Nick before, who works on a lot of that stuff, and he sees AI music, like there's sites that you can go on and literally just create a song. You'd be like, all right, I want it to be about Dunkin' Donuts and sung by Ben Affleck or whatever, and sound like, Cool in the Gang.
Yeah, yeah.
And it seems like, rather than people putting out new music or using it to create new music, it's a way for people to like search things that they have never, that's kind of like a funny thing to see or a funny thing to hear or whatever, like things like that. And then for real artists and musicians, it's more of a tool to a time-saving tool that, things that used to take so long to remove noise or do these things, you can press a button, it's done, and you can move on with your life.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that on a consumer level, it's still mostly novelty. There's definitely people that you and I both know that work and they actually implement things like ChatGPT into their daily workflow.
Yep.
I would guess that a majority of those people are in marketing, but and you obviously see it desperately jammed into every product. As the hottest, latest thing, asked me, like I was just having this argument with my Instagram who was insisting that I was trying to talk to an AI, meta AI, and I'm like, I'm literally just looking for this hashtag, and it's like, it's kind of, it's like talking to me and like trying to have this ongoing interaction with Meta's AI so I can help train their algorithm. And I just, but I think that's still such early days that like any new technology, the market fit is like this frantic Wild West of like, what's actually the best application for this tool?
Right.
And every single human desperately trying to grab onto it. So like, if we just divorce that part of the AI conversation and just like leave that out and only talk about art, I think that I am very much, I usually will argue on the side of AI as a tool. I'm very, very cautious about artists' fears about new tools. I will be the first guy, because I'm in an older generation now too. It's our knee-jerk reaction. There's a word for it that I'm struggling to remember, but it's the same thing that happens to every human as they age, where they go, things used to be better, and new things are scary, and this is different, but in a bad way, and kids these days, that.
Yep.
And so I'm very, very cautious about that mentality. I will be the guy who will be like, actually, crime rates are down, or actually, kids are actually smarter. Kids are actually working harder than us. Kids are actually more anxious for better reasons than us. Or, and And so I will, for instance, be like, when a friend goes, yeah, but AI, this stuff is ruining, I will say, you would have been saying that about electric guitars. You would have been saying that about synthesizers. You would have been saying that about DAWs. You would have been saying that about the printing press. Like, that you can't draw a line in the sand and go, technology was good before and now it's bad.
Right.
Because that would be my standard typical argument. In favor of AI, and just say, it's a tool, it's a scary tool. There's whole other anxieties around that it's going to kill us and murder everybody, and like I think that is also like, let's leave that part out, which is probably the most important conversation people should have. But we'll just like I'm doing this for my own benefit, so I don't spend 5 hours of your thing like just ranting weird shit about AI. But like, so I'll like, okay, the
great.
consumer
I can edit
application
with
for me-
AI.
Yeah, totally. You can just trim it out and yeah, the AI editor is amazing. Yeah, I think there's I don't know, my brain is just gonna shoot in a million directions. Like
Just let it happen, Gavin. Just let it happen.
I just think it's a fascinating argument and interesting debate. And so my point was that my default stance is it's a tool. We are always scared of new tools, and kids are always not. And they're going to show you why it's a wonderful tool. And if you want to be an artist that's like, I got to do things on a reel-to-reel, go for it. That's fine. But you're actually missing out on an opportunity for a new palette and a new tool. That would be my default stance. However...
Which is true, because most people are just like, now I got to learn a new thing. Like I'm already set.
scary.
Like I already got my stuff. Like
Totally.
the easy thing to do is just complain about the new thing.
Yeah.
And be scared of it.
Yeah. Be scared of Photoshop too, right? Like it's just like, yeah, you can't draw a line in the sand. Maybe you actually can, but and it's when the technology murders you. But but I think that
It's a good time to draw the line.
Yeah, maybe that's where technology is actually.
Maybe right before that happens, we draw the line.
A second before it. But I think that a friend of mine said something that, and he is one of my best friends. He's also, technology-wise, he's a bit of a Luddite in that he misses the analog world in a way. It's hard for him to adopt these new tools, and it's only because they're new and different and they take time, and he's not a digital native in his life. He's just 5 years older than me. And anyway, but he's super wise, and he's an artist, and he's very this AI stuff, like he's has those typical concerns, and I make my typical argument. And he said, the problem is that we're taking away I said, maybe technology is just one long march towards the removal of all interface. That maybe technology is just, we are just so slowly but persistently removing every interface between my idea and the actual fruition of the idea. And everything in between, computers, tools, paintbrushes, guitars, all that is just this friction between me and being able to go, I hear a song, there's the song.
There it is.
Yeah, and AI is getting us all of a sudden exponentially closer to that. And maybe we get precious and romantic about this technology, but really the true evolution of creativity, of the human creativity, is removing all barrier between those, and you get to that point. And we're very, very close.
Yeah.
We're still 40 years away, but like, we're close.
Closer than
you can see what
speaking.
Netflix is going to be in 5 to 10 years when you can just order up an experience that's tailored exactly to your current thoughts. There will be incredible like that will have all these downsides and won't be nearly as cool as we want it to be, or all of a sudden entertainment will be a different thing. But you can see not the end game, because the end game is we're all murdered, but you can see like the entertainment,
which is what we want,
which is what we should be working towards. But you can see, and actually no, in some because music is easier than film, easier in that the complexity is only auditory.
Right.
You can see we're already there. You described it. It's play me the Ben Affleck Dunkin' Donuts song that you made up, but do it as reggae or whatever. It's like, and that's novelty and that's funny. But you can do. There's beautiful art that can be made with these mashups. Maybe. I mean, I haven't heard a good AI song. I've heard some really funny ones. But I've also heard Biggie Smalls doing Nas. You know, like I've heard some things that are actually shocking and like interesting and inspiring. And I've heard John Coltrane new solos created for him that he would have played that are profound in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, and a little bit inspiring.
But the thing is, like, then people find a way to make other people think that there's something wrong with that. It's just a new thing that wasn't there before, which is inherently creative.
Yeah.
So, and then get off my lawn, or it's not, it's not the tape, and that's how it really should be recorded, or whatever like that. It creates this kind of like gatekeeping for people that are really creative, but maybe don't have access to those kinds of things. So it gives them the tools to be able to be creative in a different way.
Yeah.
That normally the barrier of entry would have been a lot more difficult.
That's what digital recording was too. The good part of it maybe is democratization.
Yeah.
And maybe for lower income people, totally 100%. The rest of what my friend said that was profound was when I said maybe this is just the dissolving of interface, and it's actually getting us to this place. And he pointed out a flaw in my thinking. I think is really, really critical. Where he said, but you're removing process, and process is where you learn and where the creation actually happens. He went to art school, and process is huge there. And he learns industrial design and stuff. And he really highlighted the value of the painstaking process of making the thing, that itself, and I was rashly portraying that as just a means to an end instead of the destination.
But would like the dissolution of interface include guitars or drums? If it doesn't include those things, then you still have a process. You still have a thing to create with and to work out your ideas on. But I agree with the fact that we're getting rid of the rubs. You're getting rid of having to deal with, I got this tool. All right, I can just do this now, easier and easier and easier. Like the computer was the size of this room. Now it's on a desk, and it'll get smaller and smaller, and whatever. I agree with that aspect of it. But as far as making songs and creating things, you still have to work through the idea to get to the point where it's like, I have this thing, there it is. You know what I mean? Like you still have to have
maybe
a
it's
thing.
about the time allotted. So maybe his argument would be, okay, let's say that it used to take me, and let's forget all the part about learning music and learning and listening to the millions of hours you listen to arrive at the pieces that you're collaging together to make your creative idea.
Yeah.
But let's just say the act of writing and then recording a song as a musician that's already arrived at the ability to do so used to take a month, and now and now we're in the future, but barely. No, we're Dunkin' Donuts. I love that as the repeat theme.
Ben Affleck.
Right now, you can make the Ben Affleck Dunkin' Donuts song, and it takes literally 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And so maybe his argument, or the thing that's worth meditating on, is what do you lose when it's not a month? What do you lose? What are the little inspirational things? Maybe you're just operating faster, and so now I can iterate on the Dunkin' Donuts song really, really quickly and in broader strokes. So I go, no, change it out so it's an 808 kit. No, change it out so it's Bob Marley singing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so maybe that would be a counter argument. But I think fundamentally his point is really about that actual time that it took, regardless of the friction of it, regardless of the frustration, it fostered something important and magical, and the fulfillment of it. And what I think, what I was kind of alluding to in, say, what I would call the future Netflix, wherein I can just call up an experience that's tailored specifically for me.
Yep.
I have 20 minutes before my meeting. Give me a 20-minute experience. I want it to feel emotional at the beginning, and I want to laugh by the end, and I want it to have Jennifer Garner in it, and I want it to be surprised and make Ben Kingsley's the villain. You know what I mean? And here's 2 movies I like. Okay. And Netflix is like, beep, boop, bop, here's that, watch that. I think that the downside, initially would be, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I can make Ben Affleck doing a live Dunkin' Donuts video. And there's a twist at the end of it.
Before my meeting, I'm going to feel
right,
great.
Right before
It's
my
going to make a perfect meeting.
This fits this moment that I needed content to fill. And then I just think I'm just guessing that like that lack of that time itself will create such a boredom with the outcome eventually. They'd be like, this song kind of sucks. Like that, like in the same way.
Let me just click through the prefab.
Give me
movies.
a different song. Yeah, well, let me go back to the. No, you know what it'll be. It'll be like, I'll just watch Back to the Future.
Exactly.
Like it'll be like, I'll go back to what like comforted me and what actually resonated with me, and and I have this tie to the fleetingness of it and the ease with which I can acquire it actually ends up. Surprise, surprise, I ascribe no value to it.
Right.
You know, like that's the natural result of something you don't invest in any real way.
Right. And I think it's an interesting thought, like the benefits of working through the process and accomplishing it and the way you feel and what you've learned and what you've gathered, what that you can take with you to the next thing. You know, it's kind of like the same thing, like before we had to go to the library and get encyclopedias to do our, to write our papers and get grades and stuff. And then you had to like bring it home, take that information. And that process of doing that, like that's changing us.
Yeah.
And we have to, and then we have an output that you submit, you get a grade, all right, you've learned what you've learned, you take it to the next thing. Now you know that stuff going forward and you do it again. Yeah. So like
that time mattered.
Yeah, that time mattered.
You might have internalized it better.
Right. So it's like, and the same thing with the accessibility to like audiobooks now. Is listening to an audiobook the same as sitting down in a quiet room and focusing on words on a page?
Yeah.
And are you getting more from that experience than sitting in your car and listening, maybe daydreaming, tuning out, and having to go back and listen again or whatever? Like, is that process less valuable than the old process of sitting down with paper and quiet and
I
focus?
think that's an interesting, like that one, my knee-jerk reaction is, as a person that listens relentlessly to audiobooks at double speed,
Same.
I'm like,
Me
I
too.
can't read a regular book anymore. I am obsessively audiobooked.
Yeah. I'm on like 1.5 every day.
Good, you gotta keep working, but you'll get there. You get there.
They're just
You
too
get there.
fast.
I was there too once.
It's too
I was there
fast.
too. No, you don't stop. Don't stop until you're at 3.0. That's the achievement you're striving for.
Do you listen at 3?
No, I'm at 2. I'm at 2 mostly. It also depends on the reader. Like that's
true.
Most books I can do it too.
The timbre of the voice. Like
well, some people
you can
talk fast already, so you can only get to 1.75.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say that is, to me, that scenario's debatable because it begs the question: is there something creative happening? To me, I make the argument. I'm like, it's the information I'm trying to glean. Maybe the argument is though, yes, but slower, make space in between for your brain to make connections. Mm-hmm. And so by me listening to it at double speed, I am just mainlining what I'm hoping are the bullets, and just tell me the information. And I think I'll process it later.
Right.
And whereas if I can only get through a chapter a night and I have to sit there and slowly read it, I might. But I don't think the part where I envision what I'm hearing, maybe with the exception of the reader's voice influencing me, I think the brain still gets the creative act of envisioning. The magic of books is that I have to engage my visualization of what I'm seeing. It's not told to me like a movie. I can't, there's so much more space for my imagination to do the work. That's why it's better for a kid's brain development to be reading than it is to. It's not because they need to understand language as much to me as it is to, we are only giving them words and they have to put together the music and the visual themselves.
So that, that being better for the kids' development, does this mean with AI and creating and eliminating a lot of that process, does that mean that we can only get so far in our adult development? If we have the tools that can do these things for us, will most people maintain one single level and never get above that because all they can do is say like, I want, a song about cheeseburgers by Matt Damon. And that's it.
Change it. It's Dunkin' Donuts.
I know.
No cheeseburger. No.
Right,
always Dunkin'
Donuts. Ben Affleck. But you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Do we eliminate the need to get any smarter, to grow anymore?
Yeah.
Are we taking that away, which is inherently bad?
Yeah.
I think that's what a lot of the people that say like, oh, you take away the process. I think that might be. That's what I see it as a point to like, but we're just gonna dumb it down. We're just gonna dumb it down to a level where it's like, why are we even like, what does it even mean,
Mm-hmm.
And that's like the existential question.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that you're just making me kind of realize again that I'm such this bizarre combination of a pessimist and an optimist. That's the Wall-E world, and that's definitely where we're going. In my pessimistic side, I'm like, yeah, that's where we're going. Those people on the ship that are just intensely obese, watching a thing and drinking soda, and that is our dark future. I kind of believe that, and I'm also like, yeah, I think AI is going to take us there.
And it takes them landing back on Earth to rediscover, like, oh, look at all this cool stuff that we forgot about. They have to relearn everything.
Yeah, they can't. They literally have to learn how to walk.
Yeah.
And
they didn't know what dancing was.
That feels like Pixar trying to put a nice little positive spin on what probably should have just been a very dark movie.
Like the darkest movie.
So I think if I'm in my heart of hearts, I'm like, yeah, I kind of think that's where we're going. But then my optimist side says, these are new tools and they present possibilities, and the artist in me loves new tools and loves new possibilities.
Yep.
But I think that you will get, I don't know, it's just a guesswork. I think that you will get fewer and fewer real artists, and eventually artists will be defined as people that somehow make something with those tools that the tool can't make themselves. And the tool, like, I was thinking about it the other day, as some of these new tools will allow you to train your own stuff. So for instance, if I want, I can use a tool and feed it all of my songs, and I can feed it 12 to 14 hours of my voice isolated, and I can say, can you just write some songs for me?
Yeah.
Moving forward. And it will, and I will be depressed when I hear the accuracy of them to some degree. I'll be like, oh, that's the cookie cutter thing of what I am, and I kind of hoped I was, for me in particular, that's literally what I strive to not do, and it's actually really quantifiable and really easy. And so I think about that, and I'm like, maybe the only artists left at that point are the ones that the algorithm they can't grab enough. They're trying, but they're the hyper, I want to say the David Bowies, but he didn't change fast enough. They're the people that are just like dodging and weaving creatively so much that when the kid that's never done anything musically in his life gets the prompt and says, write me the Gavin Castleton song, it can't do it.
Right.
And I'm like, maybe those are the last artists that people support and pay for, and everything else is the AI. And then even they go away. I think, I'm sorry, this seems like a total random thing I'm saying. I feel like I'm thinking this because it's part of what you described, in that people just sort of flatten out, like artistry flattens out. People don't really develop any of these skills. What they develop initially is a way to manipulate the prompts, and then eventually there's no prompts. And it's just people that are hyper neurodivergent maybe that make content. But I think a lot about what is the content that the thing can't make in the future? And the only thing I think about it, and I think this is primitive thinking, is just the people that bob and weave enough. And I've been wondering lately if I should be doing it. Luckily, I'm not successful enough that I don't think anyone's training anything on my music all that much. Spotify is using it for some things, but like...
I think about it for like comedians. Like I've definitely heard...
Oh, have you seen the Mitch Hedberg, new jokes by Mitch Hedberg?
Yeah.
I was shocked at how good they were. I was just like,
yeah.
God, that's dead on.
Because you can tell, like, hey, write me a joke.
Yeah.
Make me a new joke in the style of Bill Burr or Mitch Hedberg or whatever, and it'll literally come back with the same inflections and the same kind of like way that they would do a joke. It's not like a great joke because it doesn't have this like years of an actual experience that they went through and that they crafted over time. It's just very on the surface.
Yeah.
But it's unbelievable, like the inflection of it.
At least a killer starting point.
It's a great starting point. Yeah.
Yeah,
and I like AI sometimes as a starting point. Like I'll prompt to be like, oh, I just can't think of like, the best way to market my podcast content or something like that. Give me a list of 5 ways that I can do this. And it's just like, okay, yeah, sure, they might have been obvious or whatever, but maybe one of them wasn't. And then I can, and like, all right, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Work on that or something.
That's how I use it too.
Yeah. I prompt it to give me lists of of actionable things I can do. You know what I mean?
I did the other day for font pairings. Give me elegant font pairings that you would expect to see on a high-end retail site.
I'm
like, I can Google this and figure it out, but like, it was just like, here's 5. I was like, thank you.
Bang.
Fine. Sure.
Done.
Like, I don't want to work on that. That's fine. But I think I bet you it's a slippery slope. I bet you we start
totally
there
is.
with, hey, just give me some lyrics about love, but I know they're terrible and I'll make them better. And then it will get better. And then it'll be like, all right, cool, that's done. Like,
I'm just imagining the scenario where you prompt ChatGPT or OpenAI, whatever, to write a Gavin Castleton song, and it comes out and it's really good. I'm just imagining you just sitting there like, oh my god, that's like the most depressing scenario.
Yeah, it is.
But it's like,
it's depressing.
Then if it does it,
to me, it's depressing.
I think it should.
But that's my brand. Well, I think other people could feel like.
Other people would be like, great, I don't have to do the thing.
Yeah, there can be that I don't have to do it anymore, which
Because
might feel good to some people. If you don't enjoy the process, that can be great.
Right.
And I think there's some people that are like, I'm so consistent, that's a cool thing, that it can replicate it could be considered. I think there's opportunities to say, do my song, write a song by me, but make it reggae. Like there's the like, I want to hear myself do this, but I don't want to do the work of understanding anything about that.
Because then your job just becomes less artist and more
art director in a sense,
marketer and content pusher.
Oh, it's so dark.
It is dark because then everyone just becomes like like a business or or a marketing stupid thing, for lack of a better term.
I never thought about until just now is I was thinking, like, when I'm trying to come up with arguments against the darkness of it, I'm like, my little optimist is like, okay, but maybe it's not that. Like, there's gotta be. And then I'm like, well, there will be art because there will be human experience. And I was like, yeah, but what if we make it to the point where most of your day is just consuming these? You'll have this crazy loop where to me, I'm like, yeah, but I need to make songs because I have feelings. Like, I need to make songs because I'm mad or I'm happy or I'm sad about this.
Right.
And so as long as I have that, having ChatGPT make the art for me doesn't actually tick the box for me. It doesn't make me feel like I've expressed. It may make me feel weirdly, it shouldn't, but like I'm understood by something else. But it doesn't make me feel like I've really exported something and I've not translated it myself. And that process of translating human emotion into art is what I like. That's what it's the hardest thing that I do, and it's the most fulfilling thing I do.
Right.
So I'm kind of like, yeah. So I could. It can't be a slippery slope for me where I just get to just make a Gavin Castleton song, please, and make it about like do another one about depression or something. Like, yeah, make a breakup song. And
And even worse, when other people are doing it, then they send it to you. It's
Yeah.
like, can you perform this song for me? It's like, now I have to learn all these crazy AI songs.
That's a really funny Dark Mirror episode where I'm like, the taxation. Like, I have to learn all these covers of myself.
That's really good.
I really like that idea.
Yeah.
That would be so funny. Some artist that is so beholden to his family is like, I got to do it. They sent it to me.
Yeah, I got 1,500 covers to learn in 3 weeks.
I'm doing this huge show and it's all covers of songs I didn't write about.
But it's me.
From my perspective.
But it's me.
That is so dark.
Isn't that crazy? That'd be crazy.
Yeah. I like, as much as on my little protagonist is like, they're only tools. Don't be afraid of tools. Learn tools.
Because you still have to have like the human trust. Like we for now still have the ability to decipher what's good, what's real. From
Just about.
Well,
it depends on when you were born. I think a little bit.
Yeah, true.
You know how like and you can see it even back when we were kids. If I saw some horror movie, it looked real to me, and now over time I can see that it's fake. Mm-hmm. But as a kid, it looked real to me. I think kids these days, they think some of the stuff looks really real. Our eyes are a little more seasoned, and so we go, that's CGI. Like, I can still tell or I have enough contextual clues. I know it's CGI because why would the person have their camera out at this exact moment to capture this crazy thing that happened on the street or whatever? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, which goes back to the not argument, but the point of process and getting to a certain point, and then future generations can only go so far because they've never experienced the thing before. They don't have that same foundation.
Yeah.
So they can only take things so far. So that what they see is all they know.
Yeah.
And what they've experienced is all they know.
Yeah.
So the reality and their perception of reality is different.
Yeah. It'll shift. I'm wondering if I got it inverted. If old people are more likely to fall for it. Like I was thinking, yeah, but old people are the ones that don't know when like Bank of America calls them. It's like, I just need your PIN number real quick. Like I'm like,
no, I think I think
and some things they fall for, like.
Oh, did you believe that you saw that this person did?
Yeah, like old people actually might fall for a deep fake the way I wouldn't.
100%.
And maybe kids wouldn't at all. Maybe they'll be the most aware. Right now, it's like a rash of deepfake nudes in high school, these poor kids. And so they're getting like, a college degree. A real thing? Oh, it's terrible. Oh, they're getting a college degree in how these tools can absolutely destroy you as a young kid.
Use the powers for good, kids. Use the powers for good.
It's incredibly mean and not at all shocking in a way, too, but it's good fodder for Republicans to just panic.
Yeah, it's like, all right, here's the thing that we can all get behind and fear and change people's thought perception.
Yeah.
You want to talk about music?
Sure.
I have some questions.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I love being able to talk about AI and like those things because I have a very similar thought process as you. Like I don't mind. Like I think it's really great that I can, create a song about Dunkin' Donuts by Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
And I think that's awesome and I love the tools. I love that aspect of it. I just, the dad in me is like, I just really hope that the future generations don't lose the value of real life or don't lose still experience the things that make life so great rather than just, trying to create a bunch of made up AI content and siphon it out to YouTube and try to boost the algorithm and then make a bunch of money because it's gonna the scales as far as consumer and producer are tipping. There used to be not as many. Most people are consumers, and now it's like it's tipping and whatever that scale tipping does to society as far as like how we ingest content or how much is out there, if like we can weed it out, whatever, I'm interested to see what that looks like in the future. I just hope that, like I said, that it doesn't like mess with like, you know, kids growing and like wanting to learn and wanting to do things for themselves and whatever. I think there will always be those people, but the majority take the easy way.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I think humans, I mean, all of technology is taking the easy way. If we built plows so that it was easier to plow fields. We rode horses because it was easier than walking. Like, consistently, humans try to make their lives easier.
Right.
And we send our lives around making our kids' lives easier.
Yeah. Maybe not the easy way, but just like having some kind of like education rather than being just like, I want to know this now. And then boom, it's gone. And then it's gone.
You want the friction, it sounds like. Or you want a little bit of that time back. I've been thinking. Yeah.
I completely disagree with you. I'm totally on team old guy.
Team what?
Old guy. No, I'm kidding.
I don't know where I am. I generally don't.
No, I think you're in the right spot.
I was gonna say, like, the optimist in me says their tools learn them. The pessimist in me says the best thing we could do for humanity is destroy all this now. Like, I have a Luddite in me that's just kind of like, actually, we should go back to nature. Like, definitely. It seems obvious.
Yeah.
And you've got huge swaths of people that are interested in doing that.
You're doing it.
What am I doing?
It's ruining the
Is
whole
it migrating?
No, it's fine.
Oh, this is the curse.
No, the problem is sometimes I recorded a whole thing in my car and it went like this into my phone and it was just like,
Oh, really?
the whole time. Yeah.
Oh, that could happen. I should sit up. Sorry.
You're okay.
All right.
Well, now it's even worse.
I won't. Is it? I can't see it. Is it just flopping around?
You just want it flat. There you go. You're good.
Okay.
Okay.
My heartbeat pounding as you ask me AI questions.
AI.
No.
Don't ruin everything. All right. Music. New album. Patternbreaker. Completely different than like most things that I've heard you come out with. You know, I've listened to pretty much everything, and it's like super. I don't want to say not overly positive, but it takes a more positive outlook on things. There's not really any like darkness in it. And
That's mostly true, I think.
yeah, and it just describes like some really cool like real life stuff in, you know, in particular the song Layoffs. That song's rad.
Oh, thanks.
It's awesome.
Oh,
It's
that's
like
cool.
describing this awful thing that happens to people in the corporate world and how they get through it, and they're like, oh, we care so much, but get the fuck out of here. Give us your laptop back.
Yeah.
You know, things like that.
Yeah.
Like where's the change in how you approached making this record?
That's a great question. Or at least one I would love to answer. It's a terrible question.
It's like, awful question, can't answer it. Next question.
I should just do that for all of them. Yeah, okay, so the theme, you know, is pretty on the nose, Patternbreaker. I just lean towards you and you'll fix it.
Jazzy, fix me.
I wanted to, well, okay, so I had a baby, and obviously that's the most disruptive thing you can do as a human to yourself.
It's really rough.
And to your life in an obviously great way that you could not relate to. But I think what it really means, or maybe if there's a sort of a streamlined theme, although the song you're mentioning is a bit of an outlier.
Right.
The theme is if you're trying to be a healthy adult and a good parent, like most people are, I'm sure, you're examining your own patterns and you're figuring out which ones you need to break and which ones you need to disrupt. As a human, as an emotionally developing human. So that's sort of an underlying theme of a lot of it, is examining the ways that you've been doing things, and now, okay, wait, I got to be a really good person, and I got to model the right things, and I really want to set this little person up for success. So it becomes an audit and a forensics process. For me, it does, and so that's an underlying theme. But also in my life, this is my umpteenth album, and it was preempted by a huge shakeup where I decided to have a kid, and I decided to move across the country, and I decided to leave a band that I was in for 5 years, and I was, so all these things, all these patterns, or all these, at least these linear paths were disrupted, and I actively chose to disrupt them in rapid succession, and so I wanted to extend that to the creative process too. And so I have been doing my records all myself. Usually I will usually outsource parts to friends and ask some friends to help out and play some instruments. Sometimes I might engineer those. I'm sure those friends would all say that I'm a bit of a dictator, and that like I give most people like this is exactly what I need you to do kind of stuff. That's typically what I do. And in that way, I did not successfully break that pattern on this record, and I really wish I wanted to. But I set my sights up so like, okay, how can I disrupt my process of creating music? I want to create a different outcome. I want to create something. I want to hear something different. I always try to do that compositionally, with varying degrees of success. But where else can I strive to do that in my process and in my art? And so for the first time, I let someone else mix my songs, which is not easy for me to do. Particularly, this is Jimino is a pretty accomplished. He's the drummer from Spoon, and he recently built a studio in Providence. He moved from Austin, and he brought with him all this incredible gear, a lot of legendary gear, and a beautiful desk and all this stuff. And so, in a fairly analog sense, at least in terms of signal chain, we recorded the rhythm section and a couple other pieces there, and then he mixed the record, and I kind of sat on his co-pilot. I still would say that I produced it, but I gave that away in a sense, or at least I didn't do it the way I normally do it. I didn't do it in the box. We did it at a desk, and he did it. And
Was it hard for, like, you said it's hard for you to give that process up. Was it hard in the moment as it was happening? Did you want to kind of backseat drive a bit at all, or were you cool with it? Was it like, all right, I'm making this decision, he's doing it, we're gonna let it happen?
I'm sure I backseat drove more than I realized I did. Like, I would be curious to hear what Jim says. He's like, yeah, I never had a client like just in my ear like that.
Like, do you want to sit up?
Yeah. I hope I didn't do that, but I also know myself, and these are patterns that are really sometimes hard for me to notice. And so
I feel like it's easy for an engineer or something like that to understand that behavior for someone that's had so much experience and done it so much and has produced good stuff. So they're more likely to be like, okay, like, we're making a Gavin Castleton album. Obviously, he's going to have input in this.
He's super flexible and easy to work with too. So like, it felt collaborative to me. I also was just really wanted to learn about his process because it's so different than mine. So if anything, I might have hounded him with a lot of questions that he's not used to having to answer while he's working. And we switched to Pro Tools, which I was never fond of, and then I actually learned it all myself as well, so I could edit in it and do more recording with it. And now I'm using that more than I had in the past, as primarily an Ableton user and a Luna user for a little bit. And I did all live instruments. I started obsessing over learning about miking techniques and microphones and trying to get a more analog signal path. So a lot of it, maybe I should just say, is like, I tried to undigitize a lot of my process.
Okay.
I tried to not let myself use MIDI performances and make myself replay them. I also, having a fairly obscene collection of vintage synths, force myself to actually play the vintage synths, even though I have emulators that do it and make it easier. I line them all up and run them through a warmer signal chain, and I actually try to make them more expressive in real time instead of drawing envelopes. So some things like that. I also threw some scrap sketches on the record. If you remember, there were
Yeah,
three
it's a
sketches
three,
that are
yeah.
recorded with my iPhone. Part of it was I took
Those were recorded with your iPhone?
I took extensive. But I gotta tell you how I cheated that. But I took it.
AI.
Yeah.
Back to AI.
Almost, not quite, but could have been. But I after the whole process, I was like, okay, this whole thing, we
I'm ruining your shirt. You got baking color.
Oh, I do.
That's okay.
Okay,
That's great.
Is it okay?
Yeah, it's really good.
It feels good.
Just don't move. It feels good.
After we took such care in every step, like I basically tried not to get lazy. And by lazy, I just mean like I tried to care about each signal path and each performance. I'm usually super, super meticulous in my editing, so that I didn't do a good job of relaxing at all. But I basically, but I did have live musicians come in and play all the stuff. Oftentimes I don't really do that, and I usually won't do it with a rhythm section, like let them all play together.
Was the bass live bass?
Yeah.
Okay. I heard one. I was like this could be like left hand key bass. I can't remember which song it was, but
Actually there's one bass that's not real, but the rest were all played by Andrew Davis, a really talented bass player from Massachusetts.
Cool.
Who has kind of been around New England for a long time and is super good. And on guitar was a guy named Evan Haynes from Portland. That's another thing. I tried to work with musicians I've never worked with. So everybody that played on it, with barring the exception of one friend who did 2 of the drum tracks and another friend who played guitar on one song, pretty much everyone was a new person. I wanted to try. So I was just trying to shake up, like, where in my process, how can I shake up each of it, each thing? And I was going to say, compositionally, after all that really, really meticulous, I didn't do that better. Or different. I didn't like, it's just jam and throw it together. Like, I still, like, meticulously compose and, like, do all that. So
Right.
I'm still struggling to, like, embrace more of a Grateful Dead attitude about that. But like, but after all that, I wanted to try something where I threw really quick and dirty sketches on it. So I got my iPhone and I recorded 3 piano pieces that were essentially written on the spot, that are not polished songs, that aren't fleshed out, that are maybe a minute and a half long, and that are lo-fi recorded, and then just sprinkle them throughout the album. And I got this idea that I was like, oh, you know what'd be cool is like to tease them and then show the orchestration later. I want to expose more of my creative process in the music. I have a thing about, I don't like demos circulating. I really am like, I want people to hear my final result and that's it. Even though I'm that same person that says, I could have done this better. Like 6 months later, I'm like, I should remix this whole thing. Like, I could
you've always been like a full album, you know, like full package. Like this is the one whole work of art rather than just tossing out singles, which you know.
Yeah, that too.
So that makes sense.
Yeah, and they kind of sprinkled in, made a cohesive thing. But I thought it would be cool if I let people see them in their primitive form on this record, and then I will show you the orchestrated version in the future.
Interesting.
That's separate from, that was just an addendum to the Patternbreaker idea. It has not much to do with that except the vulnerability of me showing piano sketches that I recorded poorly. Yeah. That's hard for me.
Okay.
I'm just like, I'd rather spend the time to make it like really amazing. But I also feel like it's not surprising me that a few people have reached out and been like, that's my favorite thing on the record. You know, I'm like, that's reality.
And I think it's interesting that you actually finished the record with one of the sketches, which was yeah. So it's like to have something on there that's not, you know, in your eyes like a completed, you know, thing.
But it's what I leave you with.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that's the end, which is also kind of cool because if that sketch is going to turn into something that's more polished or whatever, it's like like a what do you call it? Like a cliffhanger.
Yeah,
a little bit.
You just gave me the idea. Maybe I should start a record with the next. The next record doesn't have any.
Sketch.
Yeah, I should do that. That's a good idea. That one I think I chose to do that also because it was a bit of a lullaby, and essentially the record is still for my son. Like it's still to him. It's addressed to him in several ways, I think, and these are things in some of the songs are directly talking to him, and I hope he gets laid off one day. I don't know. Anyway,
Like, here, this is all the things they're gonna say to you.
yeah, totally. Here's the script. It's pretty typical and very consistent. So that, but that was another part of the pattern breaking. By the way, to tie it back in, is I had been working after my son was born. I had been working to be able to afford to have a son, and then there were mass layoffs, and I'd been through it multiple times by proxy by other people. And it is, when you come from a world with kind of more genuine people like music has, the world of tech is even more psychopathic, where you're like, wow, these are real people, like they behave in, it's shocking. Yeah, it's amazing how typical and consistent their wording is, how hypocritical the behavior is. All that was, it's comedy enough that it warranted a song.
Yeah.
But I felt like it was okay to
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
It's like if you ever worked in a restaurant ever in your life, you would never fucking talk to anybody like this.
Yeah.
Like, if you've ever done anything with people, you know, you would understand. You would see the other side of it because you're like abused most of the time. You know, worked as a bartender for 10 years, so it's like you get abused by people, and then you also realize, like, all right, there's 6 different personalities.
Yeah.
There's 6 different people. Which one are you?
Yeah.
And like, I can try to, you know, I'm not that good with the 4th and the 5th one, but the other ones I got down, you know.
In some ways, there are a lot of parallels between tech personas and music personas. There are a lot of egomaniacal lead singers and you know, bass players tucked away in the back doing the hard work, or you know what I mean, like whatever the stereotype of the band dude is. There's still, come on.
I don't want to keep.
No, I'm just kidding. You do it. Like, I still find I in some ways I felt like, oh, I know this guy. Like, I've been in bands around this person or whatever. Or like, I was on tour with a person like this. Like, but it's this weird, like HR friendly version of that disastrous soul, you know, where I'm like, I could see that you're the bass player tucked in there or whatever.
Yeah. Sometimes it's more passive aggressive in that environment than just aggressive aggressive.
Yeah. Maybe that's the distinguishing factor. Is like, there's not violence, but there's violence in your eyes.
Yeah,
there's not physical violence.
But the words you're using are really making me want to hurt you.
Yeah, totally.
You know,
totally.
That's the end of part 1 with Gavin. If you're listening on audio, every show is available on YouTube on video. So go over to youtube.com/ I think it's @after the gig, and subscribe to the channel, and you can watch things. There's shorts, there's all the different podcasts, there's a lot of stuff that you can watch. So please go subscribe on YouTube, and we'll see you again for Gavin Castleton part 2. See ya.